You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
وتكلم من هناك لشوارزنيجر
pegarle Ronaldinho Gaucho. Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo!
This is Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio, your new live show about the beautiful game in all its glory, with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee. MLS, EPL, La Liga, Champions League, all is fair game. Powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us at sportspodcastingnetwork.com.
Happy Eurismus, Kevin.
Eurismus, yes, in a way, it's today, finally. After 4 years of waiting, today is the day that the Euro Championships begins.
Yeah, Euro 2016 starts today in less than 3 hours' time. It's 12 noon here in the East. It starts at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so pumped up. Romania, France, the game today. A lot of people excited by that. We're going to have a full Euro preview today. Not a lot of time for chit-chat and banter. We got a lot to plug in here, but I do want to start, Kevin, with a recap of last night's Copa America. I don't want to ignore that tournament just because we're excited by the Euro, by the new shiny thing. You know, the Euro, the Copa is a whole week old. So
The new toy.
Yeah. Last night, two results last night real quickly. Mexico 2-0, Venezuela 1-0. The talking point there is the Venezuela result where they got through. Venezuela, historic, eliminates Uruguay. Uruguay with Suarez on the bench, thought he could go into the game, famously had a little bit of a tantrum on the bench, although I can't blame him if they didn't tell him that he couldn't go in and then dressed him and gave him that he thought he could play the whole game, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly that, and his reaction and the look of the coach, and we all have seen that GIF out there. But for Suarez and Uruguay, it's such a disappointment this tournament. It never really got started on the right foot, literally. And for Uruguay, they're just eliminated already, and it just seems like, you know, when we talk about Suarez and the bad side of a Suarez, where when he's not in check, when he's not disciplined and all that, it seems like the whole team was that way. And Venezuela, like we mentioned earlier this week on Soccer Today, could have potentially a chance. Well, they did.
Yeah, I was saying last night, we have to keep this quick today, so I won't go too much further beyond this. But Venezuela, although they are last in qualifying right now, they've looked good in qualifying, if that makes sense. They've been far more competitive. They've been in every game. They tend to be a plucky little team that seems to be on the rise. I know a lot of Venezuelans are a little reluctant to buy in because it's been a rocky history with that team. But certainly this is a high water mark to make the quarterfinals of this tournament. And you know, kind of the middle that everyone's getting behind now. If you're neutral, you kind of have to like the Venezuela story. The other side of the equation, Mexico, full measure. Jamaica's, played well, and they played well in all of their Copa games, both this year and last year, but they've yet to score. So that's kind of Jamaica's problem in this tournament, Kevin.
No, exactly. But still, 2-0 against a Mexican side. If I was Andre Blake and Mexican in Jamaica, I would still be happy. It's a tournament that there was never really, like, nothing was expected of Jamaica in this tournament. It's almost like we'll show up for this 100-year anniversary. We'll say hello. It's a parade for us. It's a gala type of tournament. But for Jamaica and Andre Blake, it was more a showcase, and a showcase succeeds. It's a success.
All right. Other quick news that we'll talk a lot more about this, on our Canadian shows for sure. But Atiba Hutchinson, the Canadian international, probably the best Canadian player currently playing. That's been the case for several years now. Looks like he's about to sign with West Ham, and that's really good news for us here in Canada, because one of the things that we've always lamented is, as much as Atiba's had a lot of success in Turkey, has been excellent there, a fan favorite there, before that in Denmark, he's never really regularly been on Canadian TV at the peak of his powers. So hopefully he can get a nice little run for the Hammers and be on TV every day.
Canadian contingent with the West Ham in London for their new stadium with Daniel Henry and now Atiba Hutchinson doing.
Yes,
if Henry actually plays for them next year.
Yeah, he might get loaned out, but nonetheless, the property up. Anyway, okay, we have to move on. This is a very tight show, as I said, and we're going to start with Group A of the Euro 2016. In Group A, Kevin, that's the group that kicks off today with France, Romania, Albania, and Switzerland. Let's get your general thoughts on that group first, and then we'll sort of go team by team and go through it.
Well, Switzerland, for me, is a team that it's interesting. It plays a very entertaining type of football, ball on the ground, short passes, moving forward with a lot of high skill level. So Switzerland impressed me when I watched the Belgium-Switzerland game a few weeks ago in the lead up to the Euro with Laramee scoring the winning goal. Yes, but this team of Switzerland impressed me. And in this group where they have Albania and Romania, Albania, we all know, is the main probably of the tournament, which got into this tournament because of that drone that flew into the game against Croatia, and that automatic victory of 3 goals gave him a differential that for them made him through. So Albania in this tournament is going to finish the last of this group. We all agree in this, and I think every preview out there predicts that. But for Switzerland, Albania, Romania are up for the taking that 6 points, so the France game might not even be for anything. So France and Switzerland should come out of this group.
Yeah. You look at this group, and it really is there's a clear top, clear bottom in this group, Kevin.
There's a clear bottom. Top, it can switch, but the bottom, that's clear.
Yeah, I think that France has, especially playing at home, is the favorite here. I think Pogba might be ready to break out as a world star. He already is a world star, but you know what I mean, like go into general consciousness in the way that a Ronaldo is, or
Balotelli in 2012 with that free kick or something. To break that ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a great team in France and one of the favorites for the tournament. So we'll put them aside for a second. Albania, what I'll say about this in the recent look, I'm not going to lie and pretend that I watch a lot of Albanian games because very few of us have. I did see them qualifying a couple times. I did do a lot of research for the show. Obviously, they are solid at the back against the right team. So I don't think they're going to embarrass themselves out there, but certainly not a team you'd expect much. Romania also to get into that battle, and I think the true battle in this group is going to be between 2 and 3. Romania is a team that sort of reached into the past for their glory years. They brought back their 66-year-old manager that was a part of those teams in Romania when they were great teams in the 90s, brought him back into the fold. Got them playing pretty solid at the back, but they're still, if you look at these players and where they break down for, they're a step below even Switzerland. So I do think that the Swiss have to be considered the number 2 and France as your clear favorite in this group, Kevin.
Oh, no, for sure. And France, for me, there's always a question about with France, especially when the host is not that bad. We had good memories and good results 98, 2000. I say the France and us as onlookers. But when you're looking at other example, 2006, 2010, there could be some drama. So the group stage is going to be determined, not because of how they play, but because of everything else about this team.
Yeah, look, France, I don't know if they ever had captured the hearts of non-France fans during their glory years. This is a team that I think could, particularly when you factor in the tragedy that happened in Paris and the fact that they're a host team and people are going to rally behind that. And I think that will sort of capture the attention of the neutral in a way that maybe France hasn't before. And like I said a minute ago, Pogba is such a dynamic young player. The next generation of stars emerging in this game. And it really, he has the great haircut and all that sort of jazz, right? Like he's a player that, he's not your typical French player in the mind either. And I think he's a player that a lot of people might fall in love with. And I think that a lot of neutrals are going to gravitate towards this French team if in fact they go deep, and most people expect them to do so, Kevin.
No, yeah, absolutely. But like you mentioned, Pogba is definitely one of those top 5 players to watch for in the whole tournament. And France has maybe 2 of those. A Giroud could maybe finally on an international stage not necessarily break through the ceiling like a Pogba, but establish himself as the best striker of this country, France, and be able to cement himself as the number 1 choice, because people still have Benzema, and even though he's not necessarily having the best year,
well, there's
many
a story
different reasons.
there too.
For many different reasons, on the pitch and off the pitch. He just won the Champions League and all that, but still, Giroud might have that confidence. He's been playing very good, very well the last few weeks, very dialed in and able to score almost every time he wears that blue shirt. So if that happens, Giroud, Pogba could be maybe 2 of the top 5 players of this tournament.
All right, let's move to Group B now. England, Wales, Slovakia, Russia. Look, it's going to get a lot of attention because, Rule Britannia or all that right there. England always gets a lot of attention in these players. And we will talk a lot more about England in a minute, but let's look beyond that and sort of just do our general observations of the overall group first, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. You have England, Wales, Slovakia, Russia. Let's not dismiss Slovakia and Russia at all. Slovakia is a team that is up and coming in the world of European football, being on the cusp. They might even have qualified if this wasn't a 24 but a 16 type of Euro. So that team is maybe right there in the mid-table, which means in a group stage they might qualify out of the group. Russia is a team that has a lot of budget in their system coming into the World Cup in 2 years time now. Down. Wow, time flies by really quickly. But for Russia, they're looking at a national team that it's moving to better and bigger things, hosting the World Cup, and it's going to be the last big tournament before that. So for them, it's important. And you have Wales, a one-man team. We agree here, but still could surprise a Slovakia and get a result in Russia, which could complicate the group.
Well, the Welsh Pirlo, Joe Allen, is also on the team, so we can't ignore him and Aaron Ramsey from Arsenal. But yeah, Wales has looked really poor to me when I've watched them, and I have seen them a little bit in the last little while. They don't look like they're coming in a good form. Bale has played a lot of football this year. I'm not sure whether he can, on his back, put this team. Making this tournament was an amazing accomplishment for the Welsh, and they will enjoy it. They will particularly enjoy getting to play the Wankers that are located just to the east of them. I think that's probably their whole World Cup and Euro wrapped into one, getting to play England in that game in that group, and going to be a fun time in the stands that day, or not so fun, depending on your perspective, I suppose. But I'm just looking at our cheat sheet here, and we have under key players, we have 6 players listed, and 3 of them are Gareth Bale. So that kind of tells you what we're thinking of this.
So there's Gareth, there's Bale, and there's Gareth Bale. Watch out for that guy.
Exactly. Russia's a funny team too, in the sense that there's been pure chaos in Russia. Chaos, this reflects the country as a whole in many ways, right? And you have the doping stuff that's probably hanging over their heads a little bit too. I mean, they're a little bit a part of it, but they're not, So there's a lot going on there. They are complete. Well, I have a bad word in my storylines here. Yes, they're a cluster.
It starts by C. It's a cluster. It's a cluster something. Something when it happens in the closet usually. But for this Russia team, though, we've seen the disaster that was Fabio Capello at the helm of this team, and theoretically, Capello was supposed to be the manager that builds up the national team for 6 years, heading into their home World Cup. It was not meant to be, and they've switched side, having a Russian manager with a majority of players that plays in Russia, which the league we don't necessarily talk about Russian league often, but there's a couple of teams that are very decent that always fare well. This year in the Champions League, they made it to the knockout stage. Same for the Europa League. So a lot of good players in Russia that are used to play together and coached by a manager that is from the same region, from the same league, and from the same upbringing and mentality of football could bring Russia a very cohesive play. I wouldn't be surprised if Russia is actually organized and surprises a lot of people in this tournament because of this fact.
All right, let's turn to England quickly before we move away from the group. Look, the general consensus is that this is the best England team in a while, but you always have to be careful when you're reading general consensus about England, because it seems to me that they always think that this is the best England team in a while heading into a major tournament. Certainly the young Marcus Rashford from Manchester United, his success down the stretch for the Red Devils is something that I think that has got a lot of people excited. It reminds me of, going way back to when Rooney broke in, when Owen broke in, when, all of this happens. There's always a young up and coming guy that's sort of the English get excited about, Kevin.
No, exactly. And I talked to some English fellas last night, and they were not optimistic, but here's what they told me. Like, well, when you look at the players, is there any other team in the world that has as good players as we are? We are almost as good position by position. And I said, yes, yeah, absolutely, sir. I walked away, started laughing, and I realized that, that might not be the case. England is not position by position equal in the rest of the world, but they might think so.
There are some good players on the English team. There's no doubt about that. Harry Kane obviously jumps to mind as maybe the player that's at the top of his game. But they are going to rely on a player like Rashford to step up and have a breakout tournament if they're going to break through. You look at yeah, like Shrek is sorry, Wayne Rooney, Shrek.
Yeah.
I have in my notes. He's not necessarily at the peak of his powers anymore, and he's never been a world elite player, despite the fact he gets marketed as such. I just saw the newest Nike ad. You know how Nike always has those big kind of epic movie type ads that they put out before every major championship. I remember 2 years ago when Wayne Rooney was like the main feature of that ad, and that was kind of telling that they're deciding to market him on the same level as a Ronaldo, and he's just simply never been. I think England is the favorite in the group. However, that has as much to do with the depth and the strength of the group as it does anything else. So that will mean that they'll probably lose in the quarterfinals and penalties like they always do.
You know what I told them last night? I'm like, oh well, it'll go well until you face Germany and you lose in penalties.
Yeah, well, they just laugh at that probably. So I think our consensus on our first two groups. Going to take a quick break after this. I think we both agree that it's Switzerland and France going through Group A. Kevin, is that fair?
Yes, that is very fair.
All right, and I think England is my pick in Group B, and I wouldn't make the nod to Slovakia, kind of the sexy dark horse in there. It sounds like you might be picking Russia.
Yeah, Russia for me maybe as a best third in the group. I don't think in Group A they will be a best between Romania and Albania, but Slovakia and Russia will battle for me, probably for one of the best third position.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and do Group C and Group D.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
Are you dancing today, Kevin?
I am. A little French jazz with some French carillon to set the mood for the Euro Tour.
All right. It is in France. A lot of friends. I've noticed I was planning to go over originally, but then my mother made me promise not to go because of incidents that happened in the world last year. She's a little paranoid sometimes, and what are you going to do? She's 75 and stuck in her ways. All right.
She's not listening, so you're fine.
Yeah. Group C, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, and Northern Ireland. Look, I think anyone will agree that there is an absolute favorite in this group, and that would be the Germans. Obviously, They are the defending world champions. They haven't been on the best form, but
injuries. Muller is not necessarily the most informed player right now.
Hangover.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. This is still just an insanely excellent team. The key players, what do I have listed in my notes here? All of them is what I've written. So it really does say something about the team. Yeah. They are an ultimate team. They are the ultimate team concept team that also has stars. That's what I would say about that.
Well, stars that are willing to sacrifice their own personal agenda for a bigger and better goal. And isn't it what international soccer should be?
No, exactly. I think that if there is I hesitate to even call it weakness, but a question about this German team, is that they're not really going into it with a true superstar number 9. But they didn't go into 2014 with a true superstar number 9 really either. I would think that Mario Gomez, Goetz, they might, either one of those guys I could see stepping up and playing that role perfectly fine though. So I don't really see that as an issue, Kevin.
I think the words you just used, stepping up, because if Müller can do it, Götze can do it. And if Götze can do it, Gomez can do it. And if even Gomez can do it, there's always other options in the team that are playing maybe as a 10 and as a other position that could do the striker job. So I'm not worried for that for Germany either.
Well, and you got Boateng and Hummels and Neuer at the back, right? And that's
well, you got exactly. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just such a great team, and they're the prohibitive favorite in the tournament, and they should be. That I think that if you look at the way the draw plays out, France and Germany might meet in the semifinals, and a lot of people, I think Christian Jack said this last week on our Two Solitudes preview, that that might be whoever wins that game might win this tournament. And that's a fair thing to say. Let's move to the rest of the group, though, Kevin. What are your general thoughts on the other three and who's going to battle out for the 2 spot?
Well, you have Poland, and with Poland, with a striker like Robert Lewandowski, one of the hottest strikers over the last few years in Europe, both in club and country, with Poland, now they have that story, and that with the manager, Adam Nawalka, they have a great manager that's been there for a long time. They've built this team around Lewandowski, which is by far the best player of this team, but do not compare Poland to Wales. Yes, you could say it's a one-man team. It's not for Poland. The way they're built as a team, they're not built to go through Lewandowski. They're built to highlight and make sure that his strengths are shown. But as a team, they can defend, and they can be very organized defensively the way they are set up to play. So for Poland, it's not just about Lewandowski. I think it's more about the defense. And in a group with Ukraine and Northern Ireland, Poland can have a shot of having enough points and a good differential enough to get maybe that 3rd spot.
Yeah.
If anything happens against Ukraine, which I doubt, but that group is safe for Poland. That's what I mean.
Yeah, look, Poland is the clear, they're such a dark horse at this point, pick, that they may not be a dark horse anymore. So many people have mentioned them as a potential dark horse and they have one of the best strikers in the world playing for them, right? So it's hard to imagine them as being a complete outsider because they have that star power, they have that understanding. Now they were in the last tournament as co-hosts, so we definitely have some understanding of how this team plays. So I do think that they are the clear number 2. Ukraine is an interesting team in the sense that they have a lot of attacking firepower. They're kind of fun to watch if you've ever watched Ukraine, and they might be a better's pick in this tournament too, because they tend to have one upset in them. They're not going to get 3 upsets, and they might probably not make it much beyond a best 3rd place finish and out in the 16. But they do tend to rise up occasionally on the day and pull a shocker. So if you're a guy that likes to put a few bucks down on a long shot, you might want to look at Ukraine for that. And if you're just a neutral that wants to watch attacking football, Ukraine will be a good choice as well. That Ukraine-Poland game could be a lot of fun to watch, actually.
We're far away from the time of Shevchenko. But if you remember his last presence as a Euro, I think it was actually 4 years ago. It was interesting for Ukraine. Now they're on to other things. They're glory past. They've hosted. Now they're gone to other things. But in this 24 Euro, they're back. And for them, maybe it's the new generation. The Shevchenko is finished now. They've gone to other things. Maybe it's time for the new generation to cement themselves as a potential, or at least always present, team in the Euro. So this year, because there's a lot of other team that are rising up. We'll talk about Northern Ireland in a second, which for them, they would have qualified, even though it was a 16 team Euro, they would have been there. But Ukraine really took advantage of the 24 this year, but it still deserved to be there.
Yeah, to move to the Northern, they are the 4th pick in this group. And I mean, you have to be realistic about this. As you said, they had an amazing qualifying campaign. They were very solid at the back. They're the definition of a team game concept. Most of their players play in the championship and below in England, right? This is not a team of star powers, but they have played well, and you can't ignore that. However, at the big tournament, you often see teams like that sort of have a good team spirit kind of thing that make it in. They tend to struggle once they make the tournament because they struggle doing the one thing that the truly great teams figure out how to do, and that's to put the ball in the net. And that ends up biting them in the butt in the big tournament. So I can't see Ireland getting out of the bottom of this tournament. They probably will be battlers throughout. I have written down that they're no chancers, but no one gave them a chance to get here, so that's not ignore that, right?
And just to continue the trend of 3rd, I don't think in this group C that they have a shot of 3rd, either Ukraine or Northern Ireland, because of the difference of power between the top 2 and the bottom 2 of this group. So I don't see necessarily a lot of goals or a lot of points by Ukraine or Northern Ireland. So that would unfortunately stop after the 3rd match for them in this year's Euro.
All right, so we both, I think, sounds like we agree that Germany and Poland are our picks out of this group.
I think it's maybe the clearer group that we talked about so far.
All right. Let's move to Group D. Spain, Turkey, Croatia, Czech Republic. This is my favorite group. I'll tell you right now, I think there's going to be a lot of fun soccer in this group. Kevin, thoughts?
Spain, they have a chip on their shoulder. They have the 2014 World Cup bust still in their mind, but they don't have to go far to go back into a time where they were European champion. Just go back to the last edition of the Euro. They won the damn thing with the one before and the World Cup in between. So they do have that experience. Vicente Del Bosque is maybe the one to bring back that attitude that led them to glory to begin with. We'll see an older squad, older Casillas, older Ramos, Piqué, Iniesta, especially a lot older. No more Xavi. That's going to be interesting to see how this team set up. It's still Spain though, and they've moved away from tiki taka in a way that now it's centered more on their different type of player. And Isco can be very important in this tournament. A younger type of crowd, a Carvajal, all those players could be very important for Spain. Not necessarily the Iniesta or the all the other names that were the best players for exactly.
Yeah.
They were the best players for 2012 and before.
Yeah. My question of the day, we always do a question of the day. My question of the day was simply to ask people who they thought was going to win. And you're restricted by only having 4 choices. The 3 teams that I put up as potential champions of this tournament, Kevin, were France, Germany, and Spain. And then I put all their, the other again. But at any rate, I was shocked that so far I'm looking at it right now. The results, literally no one has picked Spain. That's insane, guys. This is a team that is still damn good. Are they the favorites? No, they're not. But there's a team that's looking to three-peat. They are on the bottom. They are going down the hill, not going up the hill anymore. But to discount this team, do it at your own peril. This is a damn good team, and then that's what I'll say there. The other side of this, I think obviously Czech Republic is the weakest team in this group by quite a margin. They did they squeezed into this tournament. They were sort of battling with a lot of older players. Like Peter Cech's probably their best player on this team. Like when your keeper is your best player, you're generally in trouble as well.
Because the keeper's not going to score any goals.
Yeah, it's,
usually.
I don't want to discount them, and this is certainly a team I remember. My coming of age years, the Czech Republic was always a great team, and they had those deep runs and almost won a major championship in that stretch. This is a long way from that team. They're coming back for the first time in the last 2 major tournaments, so they are back to get in there. But I believe that they're trying to. They're better. Their best days are behind them, is what I'm saying. So they are the rank outsiders in the group. So that's moved to the other 2 teams, and they're both. I mean, an argument can be made for both Turkey and Croatia that they're not only contenders to get out of this group, but they're contenders to go deep into this tournament because they are both kind of sexy underdog teams. And I like them both. And I hesitate to pick between them. I have made a pick between them, but that said, I really like both these teams, Kevin.
Yeah, well, Turkey is a team that I don't know a lot about because Turkish players usually play more in the Turkish league. There's a lot of Galatasaray and other contingent in the Turkey national team. There's, of course, the Kedanoglu that plays abroad and all that. I'm not necessarily the most aware of this team. They have been organized, and they're only 1 loss in the last 15 games. It does have a big weight to it. Croatia, for me, a team with Luka Modric in the midfield. Luka Modric might be, today, Duane, the most underrated player on this planet. If you look how his work rate in the midfield for Real Madrid, his ball recuperation, moving it forward and able to launch attackers on 1 touch of the ball, all that is done. Luka Modric, for me, might be the best player in this world, underrated-wise, and he can bring Croatia to a lot of success. This group might see a 3rd place moving on. So that could be a potential for a Croatia-Turkey to have a second chance in this tournament. They did not start off the right foot, and a Modric, if he gets going, I don't see anybody being at the same level on the midfield almost in this tournament.
Yeah, Croatia has been the best thing to happen to world football since they came in, since the breakup of those states into individual independent states. Again, it really has added a lot of value to the world, this club. And they do have the best strips in world football, too. There's no denying. The checkerboard, they're iconic. It's hard to imagine there's something being iconic that's only been around for...
Well, best, I don't know, but I would agree with your iconic.
Yeah, certainly it's something there. They stand out just in the same way like a Juve or whatever. I love those strips, and they add a lot to every tournament they're in. This is a team on the up and up right now. I really, really, really like the Turkish team, though. Their form is amazing, but I do think that Croatia's just a little bit higher in quality, and I'm also scared of my super because he's about 6'5", and he's Croatian. And if I say this, he might hear me if I don't pick them second, Kevin.
And if you pick them, might give you a little leeway on next month's round.
Yeah,
Maybe.
probably not, but yeah. So I'm picking Croatia and obviously Spain to get out of this group. And yeah, I agree with you that this is probably going to be a third place team in here because of the poor Czechs. I don't think they're the weakest team in the tournament, but I think they've got the worst draw in the tournament.
Yeah, that would make sense because we talked about this on other shows. There's not a lot of group of death, but the closest one were probably Group D, and the next one we're going to talk about Group E after the break too, Dwayne.
All right, let's take that break now. Come back with E and F.
You're listening to Soccer Today on SPN Radio. You can find the on-demand version of this very show on iTunes, Stitcher, Feedburner, Podbay Player, Podbean, anywhere you get your podcasts under the Sports Podcasting Network feed. Subscribe to our YouTube page to make sure you never miss a live show talking about soccer today, the MLS postgame show, open lines after dark, 5 rings daily during the Olympics. Make sure you subscribe and give us a follow on Twitter at SportsPodNet and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
We're back. Group E, Kevin.
This
Belgium.
is my favorite group, Dwayne.
You this favorite group in here. Well, the Irish are in it. You always got to like the Irish, and you've got Zlatan in it, and he's entertaining on his own. He could be a one.
You got you got Italy and Sweden as well. Belgium, Italy, Ireland, and Sweden. For me, in this group, there's a national contender to win the whole thing. There's maybe 2 other teams that could come out of this group, depending on the form of either their striker or their defense. So
and the Minnows fans will sing their hearts out.
Exactly. So it's going to be very interesting. The away contingent of Ireland is always interesting. Robbie Keane likes to shine in the bright lights. Doesn't matter what age he is. Doesn't matter where he's playing. When the lights are shining, usually Robbie Keane isn't far away. Wouldn't be surprised to see him score a couple of goals in this tournament. But Belgium, for me, is my dark horse. Is not a word to describe them. Not my favorite either. They're the team that I will put maybe a little money on it to make it their way to the final, because the way this tournament is set up, for me, I see a France-Belgium final. Anything more fitting in the world today, right now, in 2016 than that final could be, for all reasons that they're friends, partners in trades, they're a limit of country, a lot of history between the two, good and bad. They're like brothers in the world of Europe, and now they could battle for the whole European, I would say maybe domination, but that would be pushing a little too far. So let's just say glory. And Belgium and France, for me, is the final that I would like to see. And Belgium is my favorite in this group.
You're calling a francophone Euro, are you?
Yeah, maybe. Peut-être. On sait jamais, Dwayne. On sait jamais.
All right, there you go. Look, yeah, Belgium to me might have been. I think had they not been hit with the injuries, and that is their story, they would have been kind of that sexy favorite pick for most people. Le
Racima defender of the Euro, Dwayne.
There you go.
I called it here first.
He's got the Quebecois vote anyway. And I suspect that Belgium probably is very popular in Montreal right now for the reasons because they have the French heritage and because they've got Simon playing in that team.
We have a horse in the race. There's one of ours playing in the tournament. This is something I was not expecting.
Yeah, there could have been there could have been a 401 derby in this, but we won't get into that. We talked about that a lot.
Yep. And no New York City FC representative in Italy either. Pirlo didn't make the cut either.
Yeah, look, you called this your favorite group. I would say this is the most intriguing group to me because there's a lot of questions for all these teams, and the Irish are fun to watch. I don't mean to be dismissive with that, but they are fun to watch because their fans add so much value to the tournament. We're all happy they're there. It's just hard to imagine Ireland when you look objectively at the talent that they have competing with Belgium and Italy. Although Italy, and they're massively enigma intriguing in this tournament because on paper it does look like the worst Italian team I have ever seen. I have a lot of Italian friends. I love the Italians. I really do. I am frightened for them because they're beginning to lose their mind right now over this team. They don't like Conte. They don't like the fact that he's going to Chelsea. They don't like a lot of things that are going on. And the whole Seba thing here in Toronto adds to it a bit too. But outside of putting that aside, because on an international level, I'm not sure it has the same cachet, right?
No, exactly. But the Conte as manager of Italy, for me, is where I'm surprised. We're far away from a Prandelli that took this team and brought it to the final of the Euro in 2012. I rewatched that match last night. Yes, it was a destruction, but still, Italy made it there. A team that we were not expecting it to make it to the final in 2012. Am I expecting the same thing in 2016? No. And usually we don't out of Italy. It's a team that grows during a tournament like this. But with Conte as the manager, he's already signed and booked to become Chelsea's manager. He is not necessarily the most popular in Italy right now for a lot of different reasons, some of them including judicial reasons. So Conte as manager of Italy, I don't necessarily think it's going to turn out really good for the Azzurri.
All right, I'm just going to read what I have the cheat sheet in front of me that I made we put together for the show. And my consensus is God only knows they truly do look terrible, but never count Italy out. I kind of think that summarizes the whole thing, right? You don't want to count them out because they are Italy. They have a lot of players, a lot of depth players in that system that can play under the, when they play where the Azzurri strip, they step up, right?
Yeah, and we're talking about a year in the Euro that some third places best finish will come out of the groups. And if you do have 4 points as a third place, you might have a shot of coming up, which let's break it down. 4 points, it's a win and a draw. Can Italy beat Ireland? Yes. Can Italy squeeze out a draw against a Belgium or against a Sweden or beat Sweden? Yes. Can Italy finish second in the group? Yeah. So Italy has got a good shot of coming out of the group anyway. So that's going to be another interesting point.
Yeah, and to turn to Sweden to end our conversation on this group, you talk about a one-man team. this and a
the
team that we're going to talk
definition
about
of a one-man team.
Yeah, even more than the team that we're going to talk about next, even more than Robbie Keane. The next in Group F. If you look ahead, you can figure that one out, guys. But yeah, Zlatan is such a power, but he's 34 now. And I watched him in that Champions League quarterfinal, and he's not where he was 4 years ago. There is a clear drop in his form. He's still the big personality out there, still fun to watch. He can still score truly amazing goals. But I think a lot of how we view Zlatan is viewing Zlatan 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And you remember that Sweden qualifying for the World Cup game where he scored 4 goals? Yeah. And the team needed to win to score 4 to qualify or something. If it wasn't for him, it would not have been there. So, they weren't at a World Cup, so it was.
They lost to Portugal in the
Exactly, they lost the other one-man team. But this one is a definition of one-man team because the difference of skill set between Zlatan and the rest of the team, it's big. And when you listen to the manager of Sweden preview the Euro for his team, he's like, we have to find a way to get the ball to Zlatan. That's what we have to do. Give the ball to Zlatan. Give the ball to Zlatan. And in a tournament with defense, like I was going to mention Belgium, but because of injuries, maybe not, but like Italy, like other France and other big clubs, they're just going to put 3 guys on Zlatan. What can he do? Exactly.
Yeah. So the more I look at this, and I do, as I said, when we go back to the Italy thing, that I think that they do look bad on paper, but I think that this group has given them some luck. Obviously, Ireland is beatable. They would have been in any situation. Sweden, they can shut Zlatan down, and I think that they will finish probably second in here. And the same thing with Belgium. They have a chance to sort of come together as a group and work around the injuries that they had. They're still an incredibly deep team. They could win this tournament. I wouldn't put them as the favorite to win anymore because of the injuries, but Italy and Belgium have to be your to me anyway, the 1-2 pick in this group, and then the other 2 teams are kind of fighting it out. I'm not sure whether a best third will come out of this group or not.
Yeah, well, exactly. But at least, there's a... Yeah, Ireland and Sweden, I do feel they're going to have more losses than anything else. So, yes, they might not come out. If there's an upset, if, example, a Sweden or Ireland beats Italy, Italy has a shot at coming out as a third, maybe then. But I think that's the only way a Sweden or an Ireland come out of the group.
All right, let's move to Group F for the last 5 minutes before we get into our predictions in the final segment. Portugal, Iceland, Austria, and Hungary. Hungary for its first major tournament since 1986. That rings some bells here in Canada. I'd like to see some other team repeat that. However, let's move on to the top half of that.
I wonder which team you're talking about.
I'm not too sure. Portugal we were talking about one-man teams. I don't think it's fair to call Portugal a one-man team. They do have talent on that team beyond Ronaldo. However, when you're talking about elite teams, they're kind of a one-man team. They only have one sort of transcending player, one player that you would truly put at any of the great teams in the world. And that kind of makes Portugal always very difficult to handicap in these major tournaments. Your thoughts?
One player that is considered a game changer, if not the best in the entire world, with another player usually in this conversation, but the other player is not playing in this tournament. So Ronaldo is, for me, the best player in this tournament by far, with his achievements in his entire life, especially the last 2 years as well. Cristiano Ronaldo is definitely ahead above everybody else, but there's still a drop-off. Like, there's a drop-off between Ronaldo and the up-and-comings Moutinho and the other Coutinhos of this world. But still, he's better surrounded this year than maybe 4 years ago. And Ronaldo, if he's surrounded a little bit, if he just needs a little space, he just needs bodies to attract defenders, to give him a little bit of space, and he can be a game changer. If that happens, Portugal comes out of the group strong. If not, Iceland, the dark horse of dark horses, the hipsters of 2016, the team that everybody falls in love with because of the story, could actually do some damage in Group F.
Yeah, this is the weakest group in terms of this is the group of life for sure. And Iceland is a great story, and I'll get to them in a minute. But in terms of Portugal, to finish the thoughts off there, I do think that they are far and away the favorite in this group, even though I don't think Portugal is among the elite teams in Europe anymore. They probably were back in 04, 06, down that era when Ronaldo was coming up, and they still had their golden generation coming at the tail end there. That was their chance to win a tournament. But they can, because of the draw, go at least to a quarterfinals, perhaps even to a semifinal in this tournament because of the draw. So Portugal did get a little bit of luck there. Let's turn it to Iceland. They are an amazing story. There's no doubt about that. So what I'm about to say, don't think I don't appreciate what's happening to Iceland. They are the ultimate team concept team. They even have joint managers, for God's sakes. This is a team that everyone's going to fall in love with, but I don't know if midnight's not going to come with this group. A lot of people are starting to oversell them. There's so much of the underdog now that I think they're becoming overrated, Kevin.
So the line is too big, and do not put money on Iceland. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
There's no value.
They were in a group
There's no
with
value.
There's no value. So use the betting terms. They were in. Let's keep in mind that they qualified over Holland, which is a great name in the world's game, but that's a generationally weak Dutch team, right?
It's a big name that's been a long time coming.
Yeah. So look, I don't want to dismiss what Iceland's done. They are the smallest team to ever qualify for the European Championships. That's a remarkable accomplishment. They probably are the number 2 choice in this group. There's no probably about it. They are the number 2 choice in this group. However, let's not get carried away in calling them a contender to win this thing yet. They are still the smallest team to ever qualify for the European Championships. It would be a major stretch, an amazing accomplishment for them to win a couple games and get to the round of 16 in this tournament. So let's keep that in perspective. Austria, they have a chance in this group. It's a dark horse for a lot of people. They play a very fast sort of counter-attacking style, and they've got a 10-foot tall Janko, their target forward up there. They can make things confusing for you. So there's that, and then Hungary, Kevin.
Well, just go back on Austria for 1 second.
Yeah.
With the tallest player in the Euro for them, you just put him in the box, and against Iceland and Hungary, offset pieces in a European setting. Usually it's enough. Just go back to what Crouch did in England back then. Exactly. So it's that type of effect that he can have in this type of group, because the fact that it's not minnows, I don't want to be dismissive, but smaller teams, literally small teams combined in the same group outside of Portugal, they have a shot of battling out against each other and actually could be very entertaining.
Yeah. Hungary is the worst team in the tournament. I'd put them below.
That's mean.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put teams there, but they are. They got through because they were in a group with Greece, basically. Okay, so and Greece. We all remember what Greece did in qualifying. They lost to city-states and things like that. So it really is a team that is very happy to be there, and you congratulate their fans, and you hope they enjoy those 3 games. But I can't see them doing anything in this tournament. In fact, I could see them being weak enough that they really do guarantee that a 3rd place finisher will come out of the group. But I do think that so I am picking Portugal to win this group pretty handily, and it will be between Iceland and Austria for second. I will give the edge just to Iceland, but I don't think they're going to quite meet the now unrealistic expectations of a lot of people that are watching this tournament.
But will Hungary score a goal? Maybe that's a question.
Yeah, that's always a good question. I always hate that one because I saw it as a kid with the whole
Yes.
Canada was
86
whatever 100
Canada.
to,
Yes.
100-1 to not score, and they did. They I think it was even less than that. I think they were like 10-1 that they wouldn't score, and people got their money. So there you go. That's going to wrap up the group stages. We're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to come back and we're going to go through a few predictions. The biggest disappointment, the most overrated player, the middle we're going to fall in love with, who's going to pull a Greece, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take the quick break now.
You are listening to SPN Radio, powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
Alrighty, we're back. No calls today because the show's a little too tight, but do keep it in mind. We do look forward to hearing from some of you people next week. Don't be shy. Generally speaking, I think our call-in shows are going to be in the middle of the week, right, Kevin?
Exactly. And every day we'll leave the opportunity there as well. But Wednesdays for sure, open lines. And majority of the time we'll try to figure out a way to get your calls here. Program this number in your phone, 778-400-SPN1.
All right, and real quickly before we get into the predictions, that Patreon address?
Patreon.com, patreon.com/sports podcasting network.
All right, we kind of need you to support if we're going to continue this on a daily fashion into the regular part of the year. I know there's a lot of listeners out there. I'm not trying to harass you with it, but we do need your support to get it up to maybe $1,000 total in terms of total donations over 6 months so that we can continue to do this. We're not going to get rich off it. That's the kind of figure we're looking for. All right, let's move on.
To give the good audio quality that we are giving is to continue to be able to do this with a good internet and all the things that necessary to do live radio as we are doing.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. Took me about 6 hours to put together a lot of this preview stuff. So, there you go. All right, predictions. Kevin, let's talk about the first one. And I start with the negative, the two negative questions I have in here. The big team. So one of your superstar teams, your star teams, your big team that's going to disappoint. Who do you think that might be?
Spain. I go in a very... Not necessarily, for me, it's obvious because what happened in 2014 in the World Cup for me might be a sign. It might not be, it might be mistaken. Like I predicted Kansas City to win the MLS Cup this year, which not necessarily looking good this year. So take this prediction with a grain of salt. But for me, Spain will be the big name team that fizzles out early. I'm not saying they're going to not make it out of the group because of the weaker 24 Euro, but they did actually not make it in a bigger World Cup. So we'll see what happens with Spain. But for me, they're the team to watch for them to bust.
All right. Yeah. Spain is an interesting pick in many different ways. And I'll talk about them a bit more in a minute. But I think they actually are going to be fine. But I can see your logic there. It's not a bad shout. I'm absolutely not going to call that a silly pick at all. But I'm going in a slightly different direction. And I think we're going to be on polar opposites in a lot of this pick right now. The big team, and it's funny that I'm going to call them a big team, but I think the injuries have risen up to bite them just enough at the back to make that this Belgium Cinderella story is not going to happen for the second major tournament in a row. And I don't trust their attack either at that elite level. So I think that Belgium's not, by disappoint, I mean, they're probably going to lose in the quarterfinals.
Yes.
That's what I'm calling a disappointment. But I think Belgium will not quite meet the expectations that a lot of people had for them about a year or so ago out.
Maybe I'm taking my dreams for reality once again, but I just can't shake off the feeling of watching France versus Belgium in the final. It seems like this tournament is built that way.
All right. In an in a prediction that I could call the England Award, what are you calling the most overrated team in the tournament?
Do I say England? I don't know. The most overrated team in this tournament right now, I think, is France because they haven't proved the fact that they're the odds-on favorite. I don't believe that the home field advantage is to that effect to bring a roster that's unproven to the amount of being favorite over Germany for the odds maker. So for me, France right now is the most overrated team. That being said, they might be good. They might be good enough to make the hype real, but we still have to see it on the pitch first. So for me, France is still right now overrated.
All right, I'm going to go a slightly different angle with the big team. France is not a bad show for that because how much are we overselling the host thing, right?
And don't forget drama. Don't forget Benzema, Valbuena, and the camera. So France still has a potential of something being interesting there.
Yeah, that's just France, though. I'm going to go slightly with these smaller teams that a lot of people are fancying to do things that maybe they're not quite capable of. I talked a lot about Iceland a minute ago, that I would include them in this as being overrated in this tournament. And that sounds ridiculous to say, but I'm sort of speaking to what the hype around them has grown. The other team I'm going to throw out there is Wales. I think a lot of people look at Bale and they think that this is a team that could go deep in this tournament. And I don't think they have a chance to get out of the group. In fact, I think that they're going to finish dead last in that group.
Wait, what did you say? You saw that some people think that Wales can go out and go far in the tournament?
Yeah, because of Bale. Yeah. There you go. Watch that. That's going to come back and bite us in the ass. Just watch now. Anyway, yeah, that's who I put down as my overrated, is those two teams, Iceland and Wales, which is a different way of answering the question. Obviously, when you look at the big teams, I think maybe Belgium, I answered myself right there. I don't like to call them underrated because I think the injuries are an unfortunate factor. And I hate that injury excuse thing where people say it's an excuse to not win with injuries. No, it's a reason. And that's why I think Belgium might be set up for a bit of a drop here. All right, let's move on to the minnow that we're going to fall in love with. And you can define minnow any way you see fit. But who is that team at the end of the day that is sort of a punchy underdog that we all are talking about?
That is a tough one. For me, what's the definition of a minnow and what's success for a minnow? Do you consider, example, a Poland a minnow if they make it to the quarterfinals? Is that considered like a very successful and out of the world result for them? Maybe. So maybe that's my answer to your question. Albania is not coming out of the group, so that minnow story is out of the question. But a Poland, a Switzerland making it deep in this tournament might be the answer to your question as a minnow, quote unquote, which may be not a powerhouse in Europe, but could take advantage of the situation and of if they finish high, if there's upsets or whatever, and facing a smaller team in the knockout stage, go further than we expected. Maybe that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, I have Poland written down as well. And is Poland a minnow? I mean, they're not Albania minnow, no, but I think historically speaking, it's not a program that's ever really done anything completely significant in any major way, right?
They're Greece minnow in 2004. I'm not saying that they're going to win the whole thing, but that type of feeling I do have with Poland for some reason.
Yeah, well, the next question is going to pull a Greece. So that's kind of, we're talking about the underrated team that we think is going to win. That's kind of how I define that in my mind, but or not think is going to win, but think could win. Poland is my pick for that. I don't think they're going to win the tournament, but I do think combined with the way they play, that fast kind of counter-breaking style, counter-attacking style, which is very pleasing to the eye, I think sometimes. I pick them as my minnow that we're going to fall in love with. Let's go to the Greece question. Who is going to pull a Greece? And again, I'm defining that to mean the sort of middling power that might step up and do something truly special in the tournament. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to go out on a limb, and maybe you're going to be surprised and I'm going to get laughed at, but a team that could win, because when there's no expectations, sometimes a team that is well coached and well established and has a mix of veteran and a lot of young stars that play in one of the biggest leagues in the world at a high level continuously over the last 2 years. Yes, I am talking about England. Yes, I am talking about a team with Harry Kane and other players unproven at that level in the international game. But an England team that, if it's coached correctly by Hodgson and able to get the results necessary easily in Group B, face a type of minnow, go back and get on confidence and get the results fall their way, England can pull the 1990 and go far in a tournament like this. And then it's possible. So England, for me, is my Greece of 2016.
One day they're going to win a tournament and the whole world's just going to go, oh, okay. It's going to be amazing. As I say that with English heritage, of course, but nonetheless.
Same here. It's a little further than yours, but I still have English heritage as well. And for me, that's maybe what I see with this England team, because Rooney is not the face of this team. He's a presence. And when you have Harry Kane and other young players in this team, if they do go in it with the right mindset, the right confidence, and if it builds correctly, because that's when the important thing, because we might talk about all those teams on paper. The team we're talking about now and the team that's going to be in the quarters, the semis, and the final, it's a team that's going to have evolved over the last month. So which of those teams is going to evolve the best? Maybe England is that one. because they're going to figure out what that tournament, because it's all good and well talking about tactics and strategies. You still don't know what you're going to face until you get there. You still don't know what you're going to be, the atmosphere, everything surrounding a game going to be like, and you got to have to adjust accordingly. The team that adjusts the best and grows as a team could win the thing, and England could be that team.
There's an element of luck in any major tournament, in the knockout round especially. I mean, you could play terribly, have like 35 shots against you, and someone take it to penalties and win, right? I'm not saying England's that team, but it does stand to reason that if you're consistently competitive and consistently making the knockout rounds of major tournaments, that eventually you'll get a run and at least get to a semifinal. And I could absolutely see England taking that extra step that they haven't done since 1990, since Italia 90, one of my favorite tournaments, one of the first tournaments that I remember very well.
Gaza, to this day, you bring a little something in all of us when we look at you and your emotions and your face after that defeat.
All right. That's my pick, actually. I have Croatia is my pick. And I can see Croatia winning this thing in a crazy amount of circumstances playing. They kind of have that kind of talent that's there, that underdog sort of a catch teams by surprise idea that's around. This is a tournament team, historically in terms of the program that has gone deep in tournaments before. Don't discount them. They're in with a tough group. I could have easily make the same argument for a Turkey, but I'm picking Croatia here, not just because I'm scared of my super, but also I just think there's a lot of talent on that club, and I could see them, in the truest sense of a team that you're not expecting to wins. And if that's a team that I'm going to have to pick one, it's going to be Croatia, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that happen as well. And
All right. Okay, I'll move on. It stands to reason that my next question, who's going to be the breakout star player in the tournament? I talked about Pogba earlier. He's definitely a shout for this, but Modric is who I picked here. And it obviously plays into the Croatia thing. If Croatia does go deep in this tournament, then obviously Modric is going to be a guy that's been a star in the tournament, right?
Yep. For me, I'm going to do a slightly different route. A player that feels himself has kind of redemption to do. A player that his team fizzled out early this year in club. We're talking about Eden Hazard. And kind of feels that he needs to step up to bring this team to a higher level. He needs to prove himself. He wants to be in the conversation of Messi, Ronaldo, and Zlatan. He wants Hazard to be next to it. So for that to happen, he needs to break out. He needs to break that glass ceiling, and this tournament might be it. A lot of support's going to be his way. Belgium being very close to France, especially games in the north. So for Belgium, I think for Eden Hazard especially, if he has a tournament that he wants, he could be very dangerous. I've been looking a lot at the training that has been streaming for the Belgium national team. Eden Hazard seems to have a fire lit under you-know-where, and I think he has a potential, like a Pogba, to become a breakout star in a different level. He is a star, yes, but I think Pogba and Hazard are similar in that way, that they're great stars. They play in great clubs, but they're not Ronaldo and they're not Messi, and they want to be. And if you want that to happen, you kind of have to win an international tournament like this one on your shoulders, and the opportunity is up for the taking now.
All right, let's move to the big question to wrap the show up, and that's who's going to be the winner. I sort of, earlier on in the last previous show, I kind of nodded to Germany, but that was early on in my research time. It's not that Germany can't win this tournament. Certainly they are the prohibitive favorite for the reason, and I absolutely could see Germany win it, Kevin, but I have gone in a slightly different direction. I, however, am going to start with you, and I think I kind of know where you're going with this, but give me your pick for who's going to be standing in the confetti on July 10th.
Over the last hour, I've talked about 4 strong teams that I believe has a shot of winning it. France, Germany, Belgium, and the outsider of England, I think, are my top 4 for what I see. And when I see a tournament like this evolve and what's needed to evolve and the experience and all that and the players, what I see still in my dreams and maybe in my crystal ball, France versus Belgium in the final. And I do see France, the host, winning the trophy with the brilliance of a Giroud combined with Pogba. Everybody's talking about Pogba. I still think Olivier might be the key for France. And if Olivier goes, maybe France raises that trophy.
Certainly that would be a final that would grab the attention of the world and be a very attractive one to see. My pick is going to surprise people, and it evolved over the course of the last few days as I was doing the research. And it just came down to me looking at them objectively and thinking they're being way underrated, and we need to watch out for them to have one last echo, and that's Spain. I am picking Spain to win the tournament. I cannot believe I'm saying this out loud. I do think they're on their last legs, but God, are they good legs?
You do know that people are listening, Duane, eh?
Yes, I'm picking Spain, not Hungary. So it's not that crazy.
True. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is, like I said, this is such a brilliant team that, again, they aren't at their peak of their powers, but I would not discount them. They have that buffer of the best third-place teams. If they were to slip up early, that's what happened in the World Cup. They're going to have a chance to grow into themselves. They can tap into championships not that far away. Some of the younger players in this program have won other titles. They have players that have won Champions Leagues. This is a class team across the board, and they certainly don't deserve to be not picked by anyone. So I will happily fly the Spain flag. They are my pick to win Euro 2016.
All right. So France is mine. Yours is Spain. We'll see who is right in about exactly a month. July 10th. We'll know.
All right. On that note, Kevin, as always, I'm going to say goodbye, or have you say goodbye.
You can reach us on sportspodcastnetwork.com, on Twitter for Duane at 24th Minute, at myself at Kev Laramee, and for Duane Rollins, myself, Kevin Laramee. Until Monday for the next edition of Soccer Today, stay tuned to SPN and have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.